So good morning everybody to the RIABU interview. Today we're talking about the importance of top-down ownership and systematic root cause elimination in getting paid on time by your customers. And we're absolutely delighted to have Nikhil Jain with us. Nikhil is one of the world's largest service companies, and in a moment I'm going to ask him to introduce himself. So pay attention and learn how to get paid on time.
Thank you, Simon, for inviting me over here, and it's an absolute pleasure every time to talk to you about the number of years that you have spent in the industry.
We need to be discreet, but tell us a little bit about the company you work for.
No, absolutely. This company is a large service provider across the globe, and collections are important for every company. I would not say that it is important for this company only.
And the services that you provide?
So these are B2B services, if I can say.
Across how many markets in Asia?
In Asia, it's almost all markets, if I can
wow,
say.
That's a lot of markets.
Right, and across the globe also this company has a presence.
So quite a few receivables challenges, different markets, different payment terms, all of the above.
Absolutely, and these challenges do not come from external only, and I think in your book it has been talked about very nicely that the challenges are internal, the challenges are top-down, and at the same time bottom-up kind of scenarios.
Yes, I think the thing that we start the book by talking about some of the myths of receivables. When you try and change receivables culture in companies, you get told the same things over and over again, and generally those things that focus on blaming external factors, on blaming recalcitrant customers, sometimes on blaming other functions within the company, but it's never my mistake, right? Good. Well, you've been kind enough to take a look at Let the Cash Flow, which is a book penned by myself and Mark Lowdy, which is intended to help companies be first in line to get paid. The principle is, if your customer is solvent, the 8 things that you can do to ensure that you're at the top of the pile when it comes to getting paid on time. And you've been kind enough to take a look at some parts of the book, and you suggested that a couple of things are very important. You've talked about top-down ownership, which is one element of the virtuous revenue cycle, and you talked about systematic root cause elimination. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about the receivables challenges that you face there. How many countries do you operate in, for example?
And we operate in almost 150 countries, and there is 250,000 employees and counting more across the globe, which are working for Infosys, which are...
Wow, that's a lot of employees.
Yes, I would say that now the employees are becoming partners of the whole thing, the whole wave that is coming in terms of IT. We have always emphasized on cultures, values, and Infosys stands very high in terms of the values that it wants to practice. And it comes all the way from the top. And that's why my comment that cash flow or any other metrics that we want to function in business is a top-down metrics in the end. Because if the top management doesn't talk about in a meeting which is being discussed from various leadership and stakeholders, or it is not being penned down as one of the metrics that will be noted for the time of action, then it is not going to be practiced.
So if the leadership doesn't embrace the notion that getting paid on time is important, it's very unlikely that other people will. Which is why, of the 8 things that we are saying are important, and it's wonderful that we agree on this, the very first one is top-down ownership.
Absolutely.
It's very hard to make working capital work unless the appropriate relationship with the customer is driven right from the top, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, because what happens is that when we talk about an overall ownership, that ownership comes from metrics in a large organization. If you have a smaller organization, maybe people are talking to each other more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what we have seen in last 2 years, people were either at their home, or like in Singapore, sometimes 2 people were allowed to meet, sometimes 5, sometimes 8. So it depends that how many people are you reaching out in person. And what we are talking is what gets measured, what gets done, and therefore what gets counted. So all these 3 channels of measuring, counting, and getting done have to flow from the top-down metric. And if any meeting that leadership is going, and I must say that I have seen multiple leaders talking about various things, and they have been very great in talking to all these
so the issue of receivables, leaders, even very senior leaders, need to speak to that issue on a regular basis and to ask questions, I guess.
Right.
There are 3 case studies in Let the Cash Flow, our book on getting paid on time, and all 3 of the leaders in the book, and you may know probably a couple of them, and they include very large MNCs, medium-sized companies, and a small startup. They all say the same thing. They say that it would never have worked, working capital-wise, had they not taken a strong personal interest in asking questions about what the relationship with the customer was, and in particular, where there is an issue with the customer, insisting that they understand what it is and drive the message through the company that getting paid on time is a key part of their culture.
Yes, because in the end, like I mentioned, values are important, and those values go top down. The culture is everyone. Culture is everyone in the company. It's not the leadership, it's not the employees, it's not the vendors, it's not the customers only. It's everyone. The customers also form part of the culture of the company. The vendors also form a part of the culture of the company. And therefore, it's important that someone who's having a view of all these pillars, of all these items, are the ones which are giving the direction.
Walking the talk, yeah.
Absolutely.
Super. Okay, so top-down ownership is absolutely critical. It's very hard for any improvement program to reduce DSO, to get late payments in, to work, unless it's pushed and owned from the very top. The second one, which is a fascinating one to me, because you're the first person to pick this, and this is an issue that's very dear to me, systematic root cause elimination. Tell me why this matters.
Oh, see, it matters because the devil lies in the details. When we talk about the details, it's not that a person or a customer is paying to a vendor. No, it is an invoice raised by a vendor being settled by the accounts payable team of the customer. Now, the invoice has been raised in a certain format, in a certain manner. Now, you talk about even if a retail customer, tomorrow, if a bill comes to me, right, I would first want to see that whether this bill is pertaining to April, May, June, July. So the details have to be there.
So the devil is in the detail. What that means is that if you don't get the invoice precisely right according to your customer requirements, the customer will not pay it. And that's not because they're malicious, it's because you have not provided them with a viable transaction. And of course, if they can hang on to their money a bit longer
Absolutely.
because you made a mistake, they're not unhappy to do that. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And in fact, what happens is that these days when we are moving in terms of automations, a lot of companies have moved into RPAs, right? They're not touching the invoice.
RPAs?
Yes, RPAs are the robotic process automations
Wow, okay.
of invoices. And a lot of customers
So
have
automated matching, basically.
Absolutely. In my company and in many other companies also, the invoices are not being touched by the team members. The invoices come, they are being fed into the system, and system takes care of the settlement.
And it rejects them.
Absolutely. It rejects, it accepts, or it puts into a bin where it will be looked upon, right? And when we talk about these actions that are being taken, we are soon going to see that people angle will be a procedural or exceptional handling. All the invoice handling are going to move into an automated manner. The precise format or the systemic details have to be exactly at the same place or in the state manner.
Good, and one of the other elements of the virtuous revenue cycle is ensuring you precisely understand how to do an accurate invoice. And if you don't do an accurate invoice, you won't get paid. It's very likely the payment will be delayed. I'd just like to say a couple of other things. We talked about culture. Here's another aspect of business culture, which is this. I constantly hear people in companies, and I'd be interested in your view on this, when they're being taken to task for the fact that the DSO is too high or there are too many late payments, they'll blame some external force. The customer's very difficult, the market's impossible, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. Well, our view, and we've been doing this for about 30 years, is that 80% of the time that you don't get paid according to terms, it's because you provided the kind of opportunity that Nikhil has been talking about.
Absolutely.
To allow your customer to pay you late. Because people are generally ethical. So they want to have a narrative of themselves which they can live with. And if you provide them with an opportunity to pay you late, they're happy. They're saying, well, I've done the right thing. It's unfortunate I didn't get, The other thing is they may not actually phone you up and tell you. So right, you've got to be on the ball when it comes to spotting where the mistakes are.
You have to, because whenever I recall that, okay, I found something from the pile of invoices that I've raised, what did I find? I found that, okay, there is a PO number that has been written in a different sense, or a different manner, which the customer is expecting.
Wrong number, wrong format,
wrong number, wrong format, or probably wrong bank account number.
Wow.
Right? Now, if that happens and the customer is kind enough to tell that, man, your bank account number is not matching as per the vendor master.
Or he might wait
Or he might wait.
for you to chase him.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
by
so
which
that
time
chase,
it's already 2 months overdue.
which is already overdue, and that I think talks about very nicely in the book as well.
Oh, that's
That-
kind of you.
That book says that, okay, we don't have to wait for the last date to be outstanding. That is when it is already outstanding.
Yeah.
We have to start when the invoice is already at the door of the customer, and we keep having that pleasant to and fro, so that
What
the
we
customer
call proactivity, which almost no
Absolutely.
company does.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't get rid of the error, if you don't identify and close the gap before due date, you're automatically ensuring that you get
Right.
paid late. I just want to focus in on one thing, because we're talking about systematic root cause elimination. So in many large companies, if you have a high volume of invoices, there'll be errors that occur fairly regularly that feed into your not getting paid on time. Now, Pareto, the 80-20 rule, if you make a list of the reasons why your invoices aren't being paid, you might get 10 or 15 reasons. You'll find that 80% of the causes of late payment come from 20% of the reasons. In other words, if there's 15 mistakes that are made, there'll be 2 or 3 that you repeatedly make, like not putting the right PO number, for example, that lead to most late payments. So the joy of systematic root cause eliminations, if you follow the principles of Vilfredo Pareto, which say 80% of the value is in 20% of the activity. Find the 20% of the discrepancy activity that's driving 80% of the late payments, and work with your team, led by your inspirational leader who owns this top down, and solve the issue so that these issues go away, and that opportunity, shall we say, I was going to say excuse, but let's say opportunity for the customer to pay you late is eliminated.
No, absolutely, because what happens is that when the invoice is being raised, it's not the actual person who's delivering on the ground, is neither they nor the salesperson. Both of them are not talking to the accounts payable team of the other side. My invoicing team or my dispatcher is going to talk to the accounts payable team, and that is a very simple conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I have sent this invoice, this is the number, this is the amount, this is the date, and this is at your desk.
Yeah.
The other person
Take a quick look at it.
Take a quick look at it.
Is it okay? Brilliant. That's exactly the way to do it. And if you get that, and that's a binary conversation, and it's not a chasing payment conversation because the payment isn't yet due.
Yes.
It's a have we met your service expectations conversation. But it's a binary outcome, because if the answer is yes in every respect, then the next question is, you are aware that this is due on such and such a date. So it creates an expectation that the transaction will be conducted in a timely way. That's absolutely fantastic, Nikhil. For those who are interested, and I know I'm banging on about the book a little bit, but Let the Cash Flow talks in practical terms about how you can make these changes in your organization with specific steps that you can follow and do's and don'ts in every chapter. Now, some of you will already be doing this. Others might find that there's quite a bit in here that you're not aware of. Nikhil, anything else? Any other advice for companies that want to get paid on time?
Well, I think that the important thing about being paid on time is also getting educated internally. Getting educated internally covers not only the team which is going to take care of the invoices, but also the team which is going to contribute to the invoices. Now, let me come to that one. How does anyone contributes to the invoice? The invoice is being raised by either a system or a person. Now, that system works based on the inputs that have been given into the system. If I have done a service, if I have delivered a good, or if I have even informed that this is going to be the charge that is going to come, or this is an advance invoice. Why is this invoice? Because an invoice is actually a story, if you ask me. This invoice is telling you
the story of what we did for you.
Yes.
In essence.
Absolutely.
That's very good. I
Right.
hadn't heard that before.
So,
yes.
so therefore,
could be a combination of goods and services.
Yes.
Could be a few different dates. Could
absolutely,
be,
it can be anything. And therefore, who has played part in that story?
And you've got to tell the right story.
Right.
I love it. Yeah.
So therefore, when we have to tell the right story, people who are writing that story need to know that where it is going to end up. So people who are writing that story are the people who are contributing to the invoice. Now, people who are contributing to the invoice are three. There are three broad teams, if you ask me, are contributing to the invoice. The first and foremost is the sales team, which have done the sales, which understand the customer, and which have set the first expectation with the sales with the customer, that this is how we are going to function. This is how the invoices are going to come to you, and therefore let's get on to the work. The second team is the delivery team, or the actual team who has worked with the customer, who has said that, okay, we are here for you, here is the parcel, here is the service, or here is the product that you were looking for. Now that delivery understands, because today, if a pizza comes to my desk, right, if a pizza comes to my home, now whether that pizza was 45 minutes late or 1 hour late, or it was upside down, that actually is known by that delivery guy, right? So that's the second team, and it's a very important team.
So cross-functional coordination is really important, and accurate invoice is really important, and top-down ownership is really important.
And finally, if I can just cover the third one, if I can just cover the third one also, is the team who's making the invoice. This is an important pillar, and that is why I interrupted you to cover this piece. The third team, which covers in terms of the invoices, is the team which is creating the invoice. That team is accumulating details, right? And has to be a street smart team. At the same time, needs to understand what is the business they are into. When they understand these two things, they will be able to say that we should write the bank account number in a certain place. We should write the duration of the service or the product description. If you see an invoice of a pizza, right? The pizza invoice will also have the details of the toppings. So why does it have the details of the toppings?
It would be fair to say, and this is brilliant, Nikhil, but one of the things that comes up in our case study is that you sell sometimes, particularly if it's a complex combination of goods and services, it might be a golf course sale, I think is the specific example that our interlocutor uses, where the salesman thinks the details are all nailed, but what you've been describing, which is the precise things that need to go on the invoice in order to get paid, aren't necessarily that narrowly defined in the enthusiasm of the sale. So it's important that in the excitement of closing the deal, you still end up with a transaction that's going to work. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Nikhil, you've been absolutely wonderful. I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we're slightly up against it. This has been a conversation with Nikhil Jain, the head of finance for Emphasis Compass. We've been talking about how to get paid on time every time, and we've been talking about the importance of top-down ownership. I want to thank Nikhil for coming in today. Stay tuned to RIABU interviews. Lots more coming your way.
Thank you, Simon.